Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWS. College basketball Saturday, and it's a loaded day for college basketball. There's so many good games. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to go through 20 of them in this video, but I'll go through 5 or 6, and whatever ones I don't get to, we'll go through on the live show tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to go through 21 games on there, so if you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. But yeah, in this video, we picked out 5 or 6 of the biggest games. Let's go through it.
Welcome to the SWS. The SWS. Hey, get the SWS.
First up, we got Memphis on the road at Florida Atlantic here. FAU laying 6.5 points at home. The total sitting at 162.5. Betting trends on the Memphis side, 5-7 against the spread on the road this year, 6-11 against the spread in conference play. They are, however, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. So Memphis coming on recently. On the FAU side, 6-7 against the spread at home this year, just 5-12 against the spread in conference play. So we thought Memphis' record against the number was terrible in conference play. FAU even worse. And they're just 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. Recent production from these two teams definitely points towards Florida Atlantic here. FAU 8-2 in their last 10 games, a perfect 5-0 at home in that span, and strength of schedule is at 75th. Memphis strength of schedule back at 125th, and they're just 7-3 in their last 10, just 2-2 on the road in that span. We'll start with the matchup for Memphis offensively, and I'd give the slight edge to Memphis on this side. Look at the rebounding advantage, 12th to 216th in the last 10. Also a slight advantage in the free throw department as well. The most important shot zone for Memphis offensively is at the rim. They're 78th in shot frequency at the rim in their last 10. They're taking a lot of shots at the basket, 40th in efficiency, so they've been good down there. FAU, though, 123rd in efficiency at the basket. So Florida Atlantic has actually done a pretty good job protecting the rim. So that actually might be a slight angle towards FAU's defense. On the other side of the court, we got FAU's offense against Memphis defense, and got to give the advantage to FAU on this side. EFG 107 to 200th. Keep in mind, these are numbers from the last 10 games, and FAU's also played a stronger schedule. Look at the rebounding advantage on this side. 59th to 329th. Should be plenty of second chance opportunities for Florida Atlantic. Just like Memphis, FAU's offense takes a ton of their shots at the rim, even more so actually. In the last 10 games, they're 13th in shot frequency at the basket, just 233rd in efficiency. They haven't really been getting their shots to fall, but keep in mind they have played a bit of a stronger schedule, but it doesn't matter because look at Memphis' defensive numbers. 259th protecting the rim, so that's definitely a positive angle for Florida Atlantic there. They should be able to score at the rim in this one. Home away splits for Memphis, and look at the EFG numbers here. 205th at home, 15th on the road. So this Memphis team has gotten their shots to fall on the road this season. Rebounding numbers are down on the road, 108 to 206, but that's a serious jump on the road as far as shooting numbers. But on the FAU side, before we go rushing to bet Memphis based off that, you can see FAU's defensive numbers much better at home. 174th on the road. It drops all the way to 62nd at home. As far as betting this game, there are a couple positive angles that point towards FAU in this matchup, but just based on the way that these two teams have played in the last handful of games, I feel a lot more comfortable on Memphis, especially grabbing a big number like 6.5. I think they should be live here, so I'm going to take the points. Give me Memphis plus 6.5 next game. Big East up next. We got Creighton on the road at Villanova. Looks like Nova is catching 1. It was at 1.5. Looks like it dropped to 1 across the board here. So Villanova plus 1. Total sitting at 136.5, 137. Betting trends on the Creighton side. 7-4 against the spread on the road this year, Creighton. 9-10 against the spread in Big East play. And they're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. So they've been covering recently. On the Villanova side, 9-5 against the spread at home this year. 11-8 against the spread in conference play. 3-2 against the spread in their last 5. Recent production from these two teams, kind of a wash here. I mean, Creighton is 7-3 in their last 10, but they're just 2-2 on the road. Villanova just 6-4 in their last 10, but they're 4-1 at home in that span. And look at the strength of schedule. Slight advantage towards Villanova, 61st compared to 86th. So let's start with the matchup for Creighton's offense. And based on these numbers, it's kind of tough to make a call here. I mean, I guess I'd give the slight edge to Villanova's defense because of the huge rebounding and free throw advantage. Offensive rebounding rate in the last 10 games. Villanova's defense 39th compared to 268th for Creighton. And then free throw rate, huge edge to Villanova as well. But it's hard to ignore that big number 2 next to EFG for Creighton. Creighton has been hitting their shots at an extremely efficient rate recently. As we know, when we're talking about shot zones for Creighton's offense, we got to look at the above the break 3 numbers. Creighton takes a ton of them. In the last 10 games, they're 37th in frequency, 56th in efficiency. So not only do they take a ton of those above the break 3s, they hit them at a high rate as well. Good news for Villanova's defense. That's kind of what Nova wants you to do. I mean, look at their frequency numbers. 342nd, meaning they want you taking 3s on them. They're 44th in efficiency, so they don't let you hit at a high rate. They force you to take contested 3s. So I actually like this matchup for Villanova's defense a little bit. On the other side, we got Villanova's offense against Creighton's defense. And I guess I'd probably give the edge to Creighton's defense here. Slight edge, I guess. Look at the rebounding. 43rd to 332nd, so huge edge there. Also, free throw rate, 3rd to 359th is wild. On paper, Villanova should have 0 free throw attempts in this game. And when we look at shot zones for Villanova's offense, we're looking at this same shot, the above the break 3, because Villanova takes a shitload of them, just like Creighton, 18th in frequency in the last 10. They're 131st in efficiency, so they're not hitting them at quite the same rate Creighton is, but this is still a really good three-point shooting team. Creighton defensively, look at the efficiency numbers. 218th against this shot. Now they're 30th in frequency, so they don't let you take many attempts, but when they do give up attempts, opponents are hitting them at a high rate. Home away splits for Creighton, not much here. Rebounding numbers are better at home for Creighton, but as a whole, Creighton's been a pretty solid road team this year. On the Villanova side, you can see they've definitely been better at home. On the offensive side, EFG 105th at home compared to 240th on the road. Also, look at the rebounding numbers. 59th to 229th. So the fact that this game is at home in Philly is huge for Villanova, which is why I'm taking Villanova here. I mean, really wish I was catching 3.5. The fact that it's sitting at 1 is a little bit scary, but I think Villanova's the side to be on. So give me the Wildcats next game. South Carolina on the road at Mississippi State here. Bulldogs are laying 4 points at home, total sitting at 133.5. Betting trends on the Gamecock side. South Carolina 8-2 against the spread on the road this year, so obviously that's solid. 11-6 against the spread in conference play. 3-2 against the spread in their last 5 overall. On the Mississippi State side, just 6-7-1 against the spread at home this year, 6-10-1 against the spread in conference play, just 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. Recent production from these two teams definitely tilts towards South Carolina. Gamecocks are 7-3 in their last 10, with the 12th strongest schedule in that span, including 4-1 on the road in that span as well. Meanwhile, Mississippi State, strength of schedule back at 49th, so they played an easier schedule. They're just 5-5 in that span and just 3-1 at home. So definitely leaning towards South Carolina after reading that. On the side of the ball, we got South Carolina's offense, and I definitely give the edge to the Gamecocks on this side, but don't really expect to see a lot of trips to the foul line. Free throw rate 103rd, 322nd in favor of Mississippi State. All the other categories, though, go to South Carolina's offense. Shot charts for South Carolina's offense, there's really 2 spots we need to look. First one being the rim. In the last 10 games, South Carolina 111th in frequency at the rim, 107th in efficiency. So the Gamecocks offense really good at scoring down there. Mississippi State's defense 281st in efficiency at the basket. So that's a nice matchup for South Carolina. They should be able to get points down low in this one. The other shot zone we need to look at here for South Carolina is the above the break 3. 110th in frequency from there in the last 10 games. Just 229th in efficiency, though, so they haven't been very efficient about shooting that shot, but they do take a lot of them. Mississippi State defensively against the above the break 3 in the last 10, 229th. So Mississippi State weak defensively in both the shot zone South Carolina frequents. I really like this matchup for South Carolina offensively. On the other side of the ball, we got Mississippi State's offense, and I'll give the edge to the Bulldogs on this side. Offensive rebounding rate in the last 10 games, 14th to 151st. Also, 93rd in EFG, Mississippi State's offense. So Mississippi State's been making their shots, and they should get some second chance opportunities. Shot zones for the Bulldogs offense look no further than the rim. In the last 10 games, Mississippi State is 17th in frequency at the basket. So this team attacks the rim a lot. Here's the problem with that. Look at South Carolina's defensive numbers at the basket in the last 10 games, 86th in efficiency. So South Carolina's actually done a good job protecting the rim. So that's actually a positive angle for South Carolina's defense. Home away splits for South Carolina, and good news if you're betting the Gamecocks in this one, they've actually got better ranks on the road in all 3 major categories. EFG, defensive EFG, and total rebounding rate, all better ranks on the road. Meanwhile, home away splits on the Mississippi State side, they've got all worse numbers at home. All 3 major categories, Mississippi State has better ranks on the road. So the fact that this game's at Mississippi State might not even be an advantage for the Bulldogs. I'm definitely on the Gamecocks here. To be honest, I think the wrong team's favored. I think this one should be about a pick 'em. Give me South Carolina plus the points. I think they win. Next game. Kansas on the road at Houston. Big one here. Houston laying 8.5 points at home. Total sitting at 137. Betting trends on the Kansas side, just 3-6 against the spread on the road this year. 8-9 against the spread in conference play. 3-2 against the spread in their last 5. On the Houston side, Cougars are 9-5-2 against the spread at home this year. Just 6-10-1 against the spread in conference play. And get this, just 1-4 against the number in their last 5 overall. So Houston hasn't really been covering. Recent production for these two teams, edge definitely goes to Houston here. Houston 9-1 in their last 10 games with the 4th strongest schedule in the country. A perfect 4-0 at home in that time. Kansas in the same span. Now let's cut Kansas a little bit of slack here. They're second in strength of schedule. They play the 2nd strongest schedule in the country in the last 10, and they're still 6-4. So let's come a little bit of slack, but just 1-3 on the road in that span. So let's start with the matchup for Kansas offensively. And I know this sounds crazy, but if you use numbers from the last 10 games, you got to give the edge to Kansas offense here. EFG 120th to 209th. Rebounding, neither of these units are any good. Free throw rate goes to Kansas pretty decisively. Turnovers go to Houston. Houston may be able to force some turnovers in this game, and we know Houston's defense is elite based on what we've seen this season. But like I said, if we're using numbers just from the last 10 games, got to give the edge to Kansas offense. And when we pull up shot charts, I kind of like the matchup for Kansas offense even more. I mean, check this out. Kansas attacks the basket a lot. 33rd in shot frequency in the rim in the last 10 games. 92nd in efficiency. Hunter Dickinson should eat in this matchup. Houston at the basket, 261st in frequency, 208th in efficiency. And look at the shooting numbers from mid-range here. Kansas, 50th in frequency, 141st in efficiency from the mid-range in the last 10 games. So Kansas has a nice little mid-range shooting game. Look at Houston defensive numbers here. 272nd and 308th. So again, I know it sounds crazy, but I actually like this matchup for Kansas offensively. I'm using numbers from the last 10 games, so it's not like I'm using a small sample size. I think Kansas is going to give them problems. And when we flip things around to the other side and look at the matchup for Houston's offense, I still kind of like the matchup for Kansas here. I mean, EFG for Houston, 216th in the last 10 games. Houston, again, does have the turnover advantage on this side as well, so Kansas probably not going to be able to force many turnovers, but Kansas has the rebounding edge, EFG advantage. I mean, I like the matchup on paper in the last 10 games for Kansas on both sides of the court. Shot zones for Houston's offense, we can look at mid-range shooting numbers. Houston takes a ton of shots from these two zones in the last 10 games. 39th in frequency from the long mid-range, 89th in frequency from the short mid-range. Here's the bad news. Kansas actually has great defensive numbers against both those zones. So again, I like this matchup for Kansas. Now we get to home away splits, and now we can finally find some angles for Houston here. You can see Kansas definitely a better ranked team at home. Defensive EFG is actually pretty even, but they're a better offensive team at home and a better rebounding team at home. And on the Houston side, look at the defensive numbers. 68th on the road, 1st at home. We've said this many times on this channel. Houston's defense at home has been good all year, but if you use numbers from the last 10 games, it really doesn't look that impressive, which is why I'm on Kansas. I am on the Jayhawks here. I think they're live. Give me Kansas plus the points. I may even sprinkle the money line. Next game. Kentucky on the road in Tennessee. Vols laying 7.5 points at home. Total sitting at 166. Betting trends on the Kentucky side, just 2-7 against the spread on the road this year. 6-10 against the spread in conference play. 3-2 against the spread in their last 5. On the Tennessee side, trends look much better. 10-4-1 against the spread at home this year. Vols are also 11-6 against the spread in SEC play and 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 overall. Recent production from these two teams is kind of impressive on both sides, but give the edge to Tennessee. They are 9-1 in their last 10 games, a perfect 4-0 at home in that span. But Kentucky has played a slightly stronger schedule, 38th compared to 56th for Tennessee. Kentucky 7-3 in their last 10, 3-1 on the road in that span. We'll start with the matchup for Kentucky's offense, and I'll give the edge to the Wildcats on this side, mostly because of the rebounding numbers. Tennessee defensive rebounding rate in the last 10 games, 257th. Kentucky should get plenty of opportunities as far as second chance points. Kentucky's offense is also 4th in EFG in the last 10 games. Shot zones for Kentucky's offense, we can take a look at the mid-range shooting numbers here. Kentucky, a really efficient mid-range shooting team, 33rd and 13th in efficiency from the short mid-range and the long mid-range shot. But look at Tennessee's defense, 48th and 88th in efficiency. So Tennessee plays great defense against the mid-range shot, so I actually think that's a positive angle for Tennessee. On the other side of the court, we got the Vols offense. Huge edge Tennessee on this side. I mean, they have the advantage in every single major category here. EFG, ORB, turnover rate, free throw rate, all advantage Tennessee offense. Shot zones for Tennessee offensively. I mean, look at Kentucky's defensive efficiency numbers against the above the break three, 246th. Tennessee, a very efficient three-point shooting team. Vols should have a big night shooting the outside shot in this one. Home away splits for Kentucky. You can see their defensive numbers actually way better on the road. 212th at home, drops to 53rd on the road, but the offensive numbers take a huge drop from 5th to 90th, so kind of a wash there. On the Tennessee side, though, Tennessee better ranks at home in every single major department here. Tennessee at home's been a problem, specifically on the defensive side, which is why I'm in a bit of a situation here. If you watch the live show, you know I never fade Kentucky as underdogs. I actually went on a rant about it, but I actually love this matchup for Tennessee. But it's hard to argue with John Calipari's record as an underdog. I mean, they always win outright, let alone cover. But I actually think Tennessee should beat them up. So I'm actually leaning towards the Vols here. I want to see what everyone else says on the live show, but I'm leaning Tennessee in this one. Next game. Baylor is on the road in Lubbock for this one. Texas Tech laying a 1.5 at home. Total sitting at 148. Betting trends on the Baylor side. 6-2 against the spread on the road this year, Baylor. They're 10-6-1 against the spread in Big 12 play. 3-2 against the spread in their last 5 overall. On the Texas Tech side, just 7-9 against the spread at home this year. 7-9-1 against the spread in Big 12 play. Just 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. Recent production for these two teams definitely points towards Baylor here. Baylor 7-3 in their last 10 games and they're first in strength of schedule. So analytically, they've played the strongest schedule in the country in the last 10 games and they're still 7-3, 2-2 on the road in that span. Texas Tech just 5-5 in their last 10, 24th in strength of schedule, 3-2 at home in that span. Let's start with the matchup for Baylor's offense. Huge edge for Baylor on this side. Look at the rebounding and free throw numbers here. Offensive rebounding rate in the last 10 games, 41st for Baylor, 304th for Texas Tech's defense, and free throw rate 3rd to 176. So Baylor should have plenty of second chance points and they should have plenty of trips to the foul line. That being said, as good as Baylor's offense has been, if we take a look at shot zones on this side, you can see Baylor takes a lot of those short mid-range shots. In the last 10 games, they're 72nd in frequency from that zone, just 234th in efficiency, so they're not even hitting him at a high rate. Texas Tech defensively, 114th there. So that's a nice little angle for Texas Tech. And you know I never bring up the corner three, but actually Baylor is first in frequency from the corner three in the last 10. No team in the country takes more corner three-point shots than Baylor. Texas Tech defensively against the corner three, 21st in the country. So another little positive angle for Texas Tech there. Overall, though, let's not get it twisted. Baylor's offense is much better than Texas Tech's defense, but I just wanted to bring up those shot zones. There are a couple of little angles there for Texas Tech if you're trying to get to that side. Now, on the other side of the ball, we got the Red Raiders offense, and these numbers are looking pretty even on this side. In fact, I might even give the slight edge to Texas Tech here. EFG 257 to 212. Rebounding numbers are close. I mean, all the numbers are pretty close here. Shot zones for Texas Tech's offense. You got to look at jump shooting. Texas Tech lives and dies by the jump shot. You can see the long mid-range shot, the above the break three. Texas Tech shoots a lot of them, in the top 150 in the country in frequency in both those shots. Baylor defensively in those two zones, 341st against the long mid-range shot, 228th against the above the break three. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Texas Tech has been lights out shooting the ball, but there should be looks there for the Texas Tech jump shooters to make them. And the fact that this game's being played in Lubbock is huge for Texas Tech, because look at the home away splits for Baylor. EFG, 8th at home, 55th on the road. Defensive EFG, 182 at home, drops to 299 on the road. Baylor's defense on the road has really struggled. Rebounding is even worse on the road for Baylor. So solid splits there if you're betting Texas Tech. Now, on the other side, though, we got to look at Texas Tech's home away splits, and you can see their offense has actually been much worse at home. Defense has been significantly better, though. Rebounding has also been better. So, look, I think there's enough here to play Texas Tech. I'm not huge on this Baylor team. So I'm going to be on the Red Raiders here at home. I'm going to lay the 1.5. I don't absolutely love it, but give me Texas Tech next game. North Carolina on the road in Cameron Indoor. Duke laying 4.5 points at home. The total sitting at 149.5. Betting trends on the Tar Heels side: 6-3 against the spread on the road this year, 11-8 against the spread in conference play, 3-2 against the spread in their last 5 overall. On the Duke side, 11-6 against the spread at home this year, 11-7-1 against the spread in conference play, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. So Duke's been covering. Recent production from these two teams, kind of a wash. I mean, at first glance, it looks like the edge goes to Duke. They're 8-2 in their last 10, a perfect 5-0 at home. North Carolina just 7-3 in their last 10, 2-2 on the road. But look at strength of schedule. Duke 81st, North Carolina up at 42nd. So North Carolina's played a significantly stronger schedule. Let's start with the matchup for North Carolina's offense, and really tough to get a lean either way based on these numbers from the last 10 games. Maybe a slight edge towards Duke's defense, but North Carolina has the rebounding edge and a huge edge in the turnover department as well. And keep in mind, North Carolina's also played the stronger schedule. These are numbers from the last 10 games. So I know efficient field goal percentage, 42nd to 201st in favor of Duke. I guess slight edge to Duke's defense, but not overwhelming. Shot charts for North Carolina's offense. We can pull up the three-point shooting numbers because UNC's been taking a lot of them. Shot frequency numbers in the last 10 games. 105th from the corner for UNC, 139th from above the break. But look at Duke's defensive numbers against those two zones. 25th and 66th in efficiency against the above the break and corner threes. So if North Carolina is planning to come in here on the road and shoot the three ball on Duke's defense, I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening. On the other side of the ball, we got the Duke offense, and again, kind of tough to call. I mean, based on these numbers, you'd have to say Duke has the edge, but Duke's also played the easier schedule. These are numbers from the last 10 games, so I mean, I guess slight edge to Duke offense, but honestly, this is probably a wash too. Shot zones for Duke offense, we could start by taking a look at the short mid-range shot. Duke's 69th in shot frequency from that zone in the last 10 games, 32nd in efficiency. So this is an important part of Duke's offense. North Carolina defensively, though, 86th. So UNC has defended this shot well. I don't know if I like that matchup for Duke. That being said, when we pull up the outside shooting numbers on this side, Duke above the break 3 in the last 10 games, 58th in frequency, 72nd in efficiency. So Duke's been a very good three-point shooting team recently. Look at North Carolina's defense out there, 222nd, 203rd. So Duke should definitely have the three-point shot working in this game. Home away splits in this one, I mean, kind of tough to call. North Carolina's offense worse on the road, but their defense is actually better on the road. Then we flip it over to the Duke side. Really nothing here. Offense and defense pretty much the same rankings home and away. Rebounding slightly worse at home. So really nothing to go by on as far as home away splits on either side there. As far as betting this game, though, I'm on Duke here. I mean, you got the revenge factor in there. North Carolina got them in the first matchup. I did take UNC minus 4.5 in that first meeting. I'm going to go the other way this time. I think Duke gets their revenge. It's an important game for both sides, but Duke really needs this win as far as seeding in the ACC tournament. Give me Duke minus 4.5 in this one. Like I said earlier, live show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I got guests coming on. We're going through 20 games. It's going to be a good one. Really a loaded day for college basketball. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. Let's have ourselves a great weekend. There's a ton of college basketball on. There's a bunch on Sunday as well. We got a bunch of NBA on. We got NASCAR on Sunday. Should be a good one. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.